A small, sweet girl was riding her bicycle around the house, and when her mother went to check on her after making lunch, she had vanished, gone without a trace. But 12 years later, workers renovating a property's garage uncovered something shocking under the concrete floor, a discovery that would change everything. Oakwoodton Meadow wasn't a place where children went missing. The quiet, forested town nestled in the eastern region had always prided itself on its safety and community spirit. The town was known for its misty mornings, when fog would roll down the winding, tree-lined roads, creating what felt like a magical scene. Over the past decade, Oakwoodton Meadow had grown slowly, with a few new developments popping up along its outskirts. The rise of Airbnb rentals had drawn a steady stream of visitors, as remote work made rural getaways more popular for city dwellers seeking peace among the trees. That afternoon in late May, Sarah Peterson pulled into her driveway at 3:17, just as she did most weekdays. At 40, her honey blonde hair was starting to show strands of silver that she no longer bothered to hide. The lines around her eyes had deepened over the years, etched there by grief no parent should ever endure. Sarah shut off the engine of her aging car and grabbed her pastry utensil box and uniform. As a pastry chef at the Morning Roost, she usually worked the early morning shift. She'd start her day at 5:30, preparing all the day's pastries and desserts, and finish by mid-afternoon, letting her come home to an empty house that always felt too quiet. Sarah Peterson was a mom, or used to be a mom before her. Daughter Marie disappeared 12 years ago. Marie was only 8 when she vanished one morning during summer break. Sarah had been in the kitchen making lunch when she realized she hadn't heard the sound of Marie's giggles for over an hour. She'd called out, checked the backyard, then the front yard, even the neighbors' yards. By nightfall, the whole town was searching for the little girl with the bright smile and golden curls. Afterward, Sarah's husband couldn't shoulder their shared grief. He blamed Sarah for not watching Marie closely enough, for choosing the kitchen over being outside with their daughter. 6 months after Marie's disappearance, he filed for divorce and moved to Seattle, leaving Sarah alone with her guilt and a house full of memories. When Sarah stepped into her home, she placed her pastry utensil box on the kitchen counter and hung her black and white checkered uniform on the back of a chair. The house was quiet as ever. She was about to head upstairs to shower when her phone rang. The screen showed a name she hadn't seen in years: Detective Mark Roberts. Mark had been the lead investigator on Marie's case. In the early days, he'd call Sarah every day with updates. But as months turned into years and the case went cold, his calls stopped. Now Sarah often had to reach out to the police herself, only to be told there were no new leads. Her heart raced as she answered. "Detective Roberts, Ms. Peterson." "Good afternoon." His voice was deeper than she recalled, perhaps aged by the years since they'd last spoken. "Are you at home?" "Yes, I just got back from work. Is everything all right?" There was a brief pause. "Something's come up about Marie's case. It's important. Could I come by and speak with you in person?" Sarah's hand gripped the phone tighter. "Of course, yes. Please come. I'll be there in 15 minutes. After hanging up, Sarah paced her living room, straightening magazines that didn't need straightening, fluffing pillows that weren't flat. Her mind raced with possibilities. Had they found Marie? Was it her remains? Had someone confessed? The uncertainty was agonizing. When she saw the patrol car pull up outside through the front window, Sarah was already standing at the door. Detective Roberts stepped out, looking older than she remembered. His dark hair was now peppered with gray, and he carried himself with a slight stoop, as though years hunched over case files had taken their toll. "Miss Peterson," he nodded as he climbed the porch steps. "Please call me Sarah," she said, a formality they'd used each time they met, even though they'd known each other for over 10 years. Sarah, he corrected. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice. Come on in, she said, moving aside to let him enter, but he stayed at the bottom of the porch steps. Actually, I think it's best if you come with me. We've found something, an important piece of evidence in Marie's case. Sarah's. A breath caught. What is it? We found Marie's bicycle, he said, his face serious. The forensic team is examining the location right now. Her bike? Where? How? Sarah's questions tumbled out. It was found at an Airbnb, rental not far from here. It'd be best if you came, so you could identify it and confirm it's Marie's. Sarah didn't hesitate. She grabbed her purse from the hallway table and locked the door behind her. As they drove through the familiar streets of Oakwoodton Meadow, Sarah realized they were turning onto Oak Ridge Road, a route she took daily to work. When they pulled into the driveway of a large cedar-sided house, Sarah felt a chill run through her. I pass this house every day, she whispered, more to herself than to the detective. I drive by here every morning. Detective Roberts gave her a sympathetic look as he parked. We'll figure this out, Sarah. The property buzzed with activity. Officers milled around, some taking photos, others talking in small groups. Yellow crime scene tape blocked off the garage area, where several people in white forensic suits were working. As Detective Roberts led her toward the garage, a man in a construction vest approached them. Detective, we've finished documenting the item's initial position, he said. Thank you, Johnson. Ms. Peterson, this is Ryan Johnson, the renovation foreman who found the bicycle. The construction worker nodded at Sarah. We were tearing up the concrete for plumbing repairs and to update the entire garage when we found it. It was completely buried under the floor. Sarah followed them into the garage, where a chunk of the concrete floor had been broken away, revealing a pit about 3 feet deep. Lying at the bottom, half covered in dirt and concrete dust, was a small pink bicycle with a white plastic basket on the front, even coated in grime. Sarah recognized it right away. That's hers, she said, her voice barely audible. That's Marie's bike. She stepped closer to the pit's edge, drawn by the sight of something her daughter had touched, had loved. The bike was rusted and deteriorated, but unmistakable. You sure? Detective Roberts asked gently. Sarah nodded and pointed to the handlebars. Those decorations, see the purple and pink streamers. Marie never let anyone take those off. She adored them. Her voice cracked on the last word, and she covered her mouth with her hand. The bike was intentionally placed here, the construction foreman added. It wasn't just accidentally covered during construction. It was buried deep, meant to be hidden. Was there? Sarah couldn't finish, fear tightening her throat. Detective Roberts understood. There are no human remains, Sarah, just the bicycle. Sarah nodded, relief mixing with fresh grief at seeing her daughter's possession after so long. Thank you for confirming this for us, Detective Roberts said. The forensic team will extract the bicycle and check it for fingerprints, or DNA, though after 12 years underground, I'm not sure they'll find much. Have you spoken to anyone about this? The owners? We've contacted the property caretaker, a man named Ernest Mallory. One officer picked him up about half an hour ago. We also have info for the last guests who stayed here. They checked out yesterday and live in Seattle. We're reaching out to them too. Sarah stared at the pink bicycle in the pit, the most tangible link to her daughter she'd had in 12 years. For the first time in ages, she felt something other than dull ache, a spark of hope. Sarah felt rooted to the spot as she watched the forensic team work. She took several photos of the bike with her phone, careful not to disturb the investigation. The key forensic officers documented every angle before preparing to remove the bicycle from its concrete tomb. We'll handle this with the utmost care, a female forensic officer assured Sarah, noticing her anxious gaze. Every detail matters. As they worked, the sound of tires on gravel announced another police vehicle's arrival. Through the garage's open door, Sarah saw two uniformed officers escorting an older man toward the house. He looked to be in his late 50s, with thinning grey hair and a weathered face. His posture was a bit stooped, and he walked with careful steps, as though trying to appear smaller. "That's Ernest Mallory, the caretaker," Detective Roberts said, following Sarah's gaze. "Let's hear what he has to say." They walked outside to where the officers had brought the man to stand by the patrol car. Up close, Ernest looked even more worn, with deep creases around his eyes and mouth, and his eyes darted nervously between the detective and Sarah. "Mr. Mallory," Detective Roberts began, "I'm Detective Mark Roberts, lead investigator. In Marie Peterson's disappearance case, this is Sarah Peterson, Marie's mother." Ernest nodded stiffly, hardly looking at either of them. "I heard something was found. The officers wouldn't tell me much, just that I needed to come here immediately. We discovered a child's bicycle buried beneath the garage's concrete floor," Detective Roberts explained. "It's been identified as Marie Peterson's, who vanished 12 years ago at age 8. Ernest's eyes widened. "A bicycle under the concrete?" His voice rose. "I don't know anything about that. I'm just the caretaker. I manage guests and upkeep, that's it. But I do know the owner ordered a renovation on his garage." "How long have you worked as caretaker here?" Detective Roberts asked. "About 10 years now, since Mr. Holloway began renting it out through Airbnb." "And who is Mr. Holloway?" Ernest shuffled his feet. "Vance Holloway. He's the owner, lives in Zurich, Switzerland now, has for years. He comes back once or twice a year to check on the property, but otherwise he trusts me to manage everything." Detective Roberts held Ernest's gaze as he continued questioning. "When was the garage floor last renovated or repaired?" "Not since I've been here," Ernest replied. "The house was built about 13 years ago. Mr. Holloway lived here a few years before moving to Europe." Sarah watched, trying to read Ernest's body language. He kept looking at the garage, a nervousness that seemed extreme given the situation. Detective Roberts's tone turned sharper. "Mr. Mallory, I'll be direct. The main suspects now are the people with regular access to this property, you and the owner. For a guest to bury a bicycle under concrete would be unusual and tough to pull off." Ernest's face flushed. "You think I did this? I wouldn't dare. I'm a caretaker, not a criminal. I don't know anything about a missing girl or bike." "We'll need records of every guest who stayed here," one uniformed officer said. Ernest nodded quickly. "Of course, I have all that. This property's popular. Some guests stay for months, even a year or two, especially since remote work took off. I have all the records." "You're suggesting a long-term guest buried the bicycle?" Detective Roberts asked skeptically. "I'm not suggesting anything," Ernest said defensively. "I'm just saying I don't know how it got there. It could have been there before I started working here." Detective Roberts glanced at an officer who pulled out a tablet and tapped the screen. After a moment, the officer spoke. "County records show this property was built in 2010, about a year before Marie Peterson's disappearance in 2011. "Well, there you have it," Ernest said quickly. "The bike must have been placed there during construction before the concrete was poured. I wasn't even here then." Detective Roberts' face remained impassive. "We'll need to speak with Mr. Holloway as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Mr. Mallory, please stay in town and be available for further questioning." Ernest nodded vigorously. "Of course, Detective. I want to help however I can. I'll give you any information you need." Sarah watched as Detective Roberts directed officers to coordinate with Swiss authorities to contact Vance Holloway in Switzerland. The property would be thoroughly searched, and all guests who'd stayed there would be contacted and interviewed. "Detective," Roberts turned to Sarah, We've alerted the local media about the discovery. They'll probably be here soon. Would you like to make a statement?" Sarah shook her head. "No, I don't think I can handle that right now. It's too much." "I understand," he said. "I'll have an officer escort you home. We'll keep you updated on everything we find." As Sarah was led back to a patrol car, she saw news vans arriving, reporters setting up cameras at the edge of the property. Seeing Marie's bicycle had awakened something in her, a desperate hope that had been buried for years. But with that hope came the fear of heartbreak, of having her hopes dashed once more. On the ride home, Sarah stared out the window at Oakwoodton Meadows' familiar streets, now seeming new to her. Somewhere in this town, answers about what happened to her daughter might exist, and for the first time in 12 years, she felt she might actually find them. Back home, Sarah thanked the officer for the escort and went straight to her bedroom. Her mind spun with everything that had happened: finding Marie's bicycle, questioning Ernest Mallory, restarting the investigation. She changed out of her work clothes into comfy sweatpants and an old college sweatshirt, then padded barefoot to her home office. The room that had once been Marie's bedroom had been turned into a workspace years ago, when Sarah could no longer bear passing the door each day and seeing her daughter's things untouched, waiting for someone to return. The walls were now neutral beige instead of the bright yellow Marie had chosen, but Sarah kept a few of her daughter's drawings framed on the wall, unwilling to erase her completely. Sarah sat at her computer and logged into the online forum she'd visited for the past 10 years, Missing Children's Support Community. The group had been her lifeline, connecting her with other parents who understood her pain and helping her navigate the complicated emotions of having a missing child. Her hands shook slightly as she created a new post. Today, after 12 years, police found Marie's bicycle buried under concrete in the garage of an Airbnb rental in town. "I drive by this house every day on my way to work. The investigation is ongoing. I'm overwhelmed with emotion, but I wanted to update everyone who supported me for so long. This could be the break we've been waiting for." She attached one of the photos of the bicycle in the pit and clicked post. Almost immediately, notifications popped up as members responded with messages of hope and encouragement. As Sarah scrolled through replies, a private message notification appeared. She clicked it, expecting a note from a moderator or someone she'd grown close to on the forum. Instead, what she saw made her gasp in shock and horror. The message included a photo, one she recognized as a picture she'd shared years ago of Marie riding her pink bicycle in front of their house. But this version was grotesquely altered. Marie's smiling face had been replaced with what looked like a dead pig's head, crudely photoshopped onto her daughter's body. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered, covering her mouth. Below the disturbing image was a short video. Trembling, Sarah hit play, immediately regretting it. The video showed someone chopping what looked like a pig's head, then wrapping it in plastic wrap. The footage was dark and grainy, but clear enough to be deeply disturbing. Accompanying this was a message: "Your daughter's as dead as this pig. Just accept it and live with it." Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. She slammed the laptop closed and rushed to the bathroom, barely making it in time before she vomited. Into the toilet, she retched until there was nothing left, then slumped against the cold tile, trembling. After several minutes, she gathered herself and returned to the computer. She needed to document this before telling Detective Roberts. Summoning her courage, she opened the laptop and took screenshots of the message, the altered photo, and the video. Then she typed a reply. "Who are you? If you're brave enough to send this filth, you should be brave enough to reveal yourself. Who would do something so cruel to a mother who's suffered for 12 years? She clicked the sender's username, hoping to find any clues about who might have sent this horrific message. but the profile was private. There were no followers or following counts visible, suggesting the account was newly created just to send her this. Sarah paced the room, trying to calm her racing heart. After a few minutes, she returned to the computer and forced herself to watch the video again, looking for anything that might identify the sender. She paused it at various points, studying the background. There wasn't much to go on, just what looked like a wooden surface outdoors, maybe a table or butcher's block. In one frame, she saw what could have been a pine tree, visible through a window. Sarah shared the photo and video with the community and sent them to the detective, hoping someone might notice something she missed. She posted it with a note, explaining what had happened and asking for help identifying the account or any details in the footage. As she uploaded her post, her phone rang. It was Detective Roberts. "I just saw what you sent me," he said, without introduction. "When did you get this?" "Just now," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I posted about finding Marie's bike on my support forum, and this popped up in my private messages almost immediately. Our tech team is analyzing the video and tracing the account right now." "One thing I noticed right off," Detective Roberts said. "The trees in the background look like European alpine evergreens, not the kinds we have here. Do you think it could be the property owner? He's in Switzerland, right?" "That's a possibility we can't ignore," Detective Roberts admitted. "The timing is suspicious. We contacted Ernest earlier today, and he might have alerted the owner. But it could also be someone else entirely, maybe just a troll who saw the news and decided to be cruel." "Have you found anything else at the house?" Sarah asked. "We did a thorough search of the entire property," Detective Roberts replied. "There are no signs of human remains or other evidence related to Marie's case, which is good. We're still processing the scene, but the bicycle is our only solid lead so far. What about guests? Have you heard from any of them yet?" "We're still contacting them," Sarah said. "With years of rental history, it's tough, but we're prioritizing long-term stays and anyone there around Marie's disappearance." Detective Roberts paused, then continued. "Our forensic team has finished the preliminary exam of the bicycle. As we expected, they found no usable fingerprints or DNA. The bike's been underground too long. The concrete and moisture have destroyed any biological evidence." Sarah closed her eyes, trying not to let disappointment overwhelm her. "So we're back to square one?" she asked. "Not at all," Detective Roberts assured her. "Finding that bicycle is a huge breakthrough. It tells us whoever was involved had access to that property. It narrows our focus a lot." After they hung up, Sarah checked her forum. Her post had dozens of new replies, members offering analysis and support. Some agreed with Detective Roberts that the trees were likely European species, while others noted oddities in the footage, suggesting it might be digitally altered or even AI-generated. Sarah spent the next few hours reading and responding, grateful for the distraction and the collective expertise of the community. With each supportive message, she felt a little stronger, a little more ready to face whatever came next. But under it all ran a current of dread. Someone didn't want her looking for Marie. Someone wanted her to believe her daughter was dead, and that someone might have been watching her for years, waiting for hope to return so they could crush it. The rest of the day and evening passed in a blur as Sarah stayed active on the forum. The community rallied around her, offering technical analysis of the video and photo, as well as emotional support. Experts in the group examined the footage frame by frame. "The lighting's inconsistent between frames," one member wrote, "and there's odd artifacting around the pig's head suggesting digital editing. I work in video authentication," another commented. "This looks like a composite, real butchering footage mixed with AI-generated elements to make it seem filmed in a certain place." Sarah clung to these technical discussions, preferring to think about the video's mechanics rather than its horrifying content or what it meant for Marie's fate. As night fell, she lost track of time. The clock on her computer read nearly midnight. She logged out, promising to update the group if she learned anything new, and shut down her computer. Exhausted, she knew sleep would be elusive. Her mind raced with scenarios and possibilities. Still, she followed her normal bedtime routine, washing her face, brushing her teeth, changing into pajamas. In bed, she stared at the ceiling, watching shadows cast by passing car headlights. The buried bicycle, the disturbing image, the pigs. Head video, Ernest Mallory's nervous demeanor, the property owner in Switzerland, all of it seemed impossible to be mere coincidence. Sarah shifted, trying to find comfort that wouldn't come. If the sender of that message was in Europe, as Detective Roberts suggested, they were safely thousands of miles away, hiding behind a screen, tormenting her from afar. But why? What could drive someone to be so cruel to a mother who'd suffered the worst pain imaginable? And what about that final message? Just accept it and live with it. Was it meant to say Marie was truly gone, that Sarah should give up hope? Or was it a threat, a warning to stop seeking the truth now that evidence resurfaced? Hours passed, and sleep continued to elude her. Sarah watched the clock change, 1:17, 2:42, 3:28. By 4 a.m., she had given up completely. "This is ridiculous," she muttered, flipping on the bedside lamp. "If I can't sleep, at least I can do something." Sarah got out of bed and changed into black jeans and a soft green sweater. She gathered her pastry utensil box, her chef's uniform, and her purse. Arriving at the morning roost early wasn't unusual, though 4 a.m. was extreme, even for her. But the bakery owner, Marge, had given Sarah her own key years ago, trusting her completely. "The ovens don't care what time it is," Marge had said, "and neither do I, as long as the pastries are good." The bakery had become Sarah's refuge after Marie's disappearance. There was something soothing about precise measurements, the rhythm of kneading dough, the alchemy of heat turning simple ingredients into something delightful. In the kitchen, Sarah focused on creating something real, something that brought joy to others when she'd been powerless to protect what mattered most. She packed her supplies into her car and eased out of the driveway. The streets of Oakwoodton Meadow were deserted at this hour, lit only by street lamps and the faint glow of dawn in the east. Sarah drove slowly, her mind still processing the previous day's events. Maybe by the time her shift ended, Detective Roberts would have news. Perhaps they'd traced the sender of that hateful message or found some piece of evidence on the bicycle they'd missed. As Sarah made the familiar drive to the bakery, her headlights swept over the empty road. The town was silent, most residents still asleep. She followed the winding street toward downtown, naturally slowing at the curve near the Airbnb where Marie's bicycle had been found. Then something caught her eye. A light flicked on inside the house among the trees. Sarah frowned. Detective Roberts told her the property was under investigation and no one should be inside. But the light went off again, plunging the house into darkness. "That's strange," Sarah murmured. "They might have left a guard, but why turn lights on and off at 4 in the morning?" Acting on instinct, she slowed and turned onto the private road leading to the house. She drove cautiously with her headlights on, but approached carefully. As she got closer, she saw a white van parked by the side of the house. It wasn't a police vehicle. Sarah parked her car a short distance away and cut the engine. She debated calling Detective Roberts, but decided to investigate first. If she was wrong, she didn't want to rouse him needlessly. She stepped out quietly, closing the door gently. The pre-dawn air was cool and damp as she crept toward the house, sticking close to the tree line for cover. Approaching, Sarah spotted movement near the front, a figure walking quickly from the house to the white van. It was Ernest Mallory. Even in dim light, she recognized his stooped posture and nervous gait. Ernest was carrying something, though Sarah couldn't tell what. He placed the object in the van and turned back to the house, then stiffened as he heard Sarah's footsteps on the gravel. "Who's there?" he called, voice tight with alarm. Sarah hesitated, then stepped into view. "It's Sarah Peterson," she said, stepping forward. "Marie's mother." Ernest's face was hard to read in the dark, but his body language said it all. His shoulders tensed, and he took a half step back. "What are you doing here at this hour?" he asked, voice strained. "I could ask you the same," Sarah replied, stopping a few yards away. "I thought this place was off limits. I was driving to work and saw lights on." Ernest shifted uneasily. "Mr. Holloway asked me to gather some documents from the house, insurance papers and property records the police need. He said I could get his permission. He's in Switzerland. It's already morning there." The police needed those, right? "Away," he added. "I was told to collect them as soon as possible." Sarah studied him, noting his darting eyes and anxious manner. "I'm just following my employer's instructions," he said, moving toward the van's driver door. "I need to deliver these to the station. You shouldn't be here. This is an active crime scene." Sarah nodded slowly. "I'm going the other way. I'm headed to work." Ernest gave a curt nod and climbed into his van. Sarah walked back to her car, listening as his engine started. She waited until the van drove down the private road before getting in. Once inside, she called Detective Roberts. Despite the hour, he answered on the third ring, voice alert. "Sarah, is everything okay?" "I'm not sure," she replied quickly. "He said he had permission to enter the house." "Who gave him permission?" "He said it was the owner, Mr. Holloway, and that the police needed some papers." "That's absolutely false," Detective Roberts said firmly. "No one has permission to enter that property now, especially at this hour. Whatever Ernest was doing wasn't authorized. Stay where you are. I'm sending officers to your location now, and we'll track his van." "I'm not at the house. I'm in my car on the main road. He's already gone." "Which way did he go?" "West on Cedar Ridge Road. Stay there or go back. We'll handle it." Sarah agreed and ended the call. She sat in her car, engine still running, thoughts whirling. What was Ernest really doing? What did he take? Why at this hour, thinking no one would see? Suddenly, clarity hit. He was removing evidence, something linking him to Marie's disappearance. He couldn't risk the police finding it. Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She'd promised Detective Roberts not to follow, but the mother in her, who'd searched 12 years for answers, couldn't just drive away, not when the truth might be so close. She shifted the car into drive and turned west onto Cedar Ridge Road, following Ernest's path. She told herself she'd keep a safe distance. She wouldn't confront him, only see where he went. And this road also led to Morning Roost. Sarah continued west on Cedar Ridge Road, eyes peeled for the white van. The road wound through dense forest, with few houses and hardly any streetlights. In the pre-dawn darkness, she used her headlights to navigate curves and dips. She wasn't trying to catch him, only to follow at a distance. Her goal was to find out what he was doing with whatever he'd taken. Sarah checked her GPS to confirm she was on the right route. Cedar Ridge Road ran straight for a few miles, though it curved through the woods. According to the map, if she kept following it, she'd hit Hillside Avenue, which would lead her back to town near Morning Roost. That gave her some comfort. She wasn't completely off course. She could still make it to work on time. After about 10 minutes, Sarah worried she'd missed Ernest's van, or that he'd turned onto a side road she hadn't noticed. But just as she thought about turning around, she spotted the white van parked on the shoulder, partly hidden by trees. Sarah slowed and pulled over, stopping well back and turning off her headlights. She didn't want the van's driver noticing. From this distance, she could barely make out the van's outline in the growing dawn light. Not sure what to do next, Sarah rolled down her window, hoping to hear something that might reveal Ernest's actions. A faint smell reached her, Smoke, acid, and chemical, not the smell of a campfire. Sarah peered through the trees and saw thin wisps of black smoke rising from the woods near where the van was parked. He was burning something. She wondered if she should call Detective Roberts now, but the signal was weak, and by the time police arrived, Ernest could be gone. As Sarah considered her options, she saw Ernest emerge from the trees, carrying what looked like a metal barrel. Even from afar, Sarah could tell it was a burn barrel, the kind used for safe outdoor fires when burning yard waste. Ernest loaded the barrel into the back of his van, moving hurriedly, his anxiety clear in every glance around. Sarah sank lower, in her seat, concealed by trees and far enough away that Ernest didn't notice her. Once the barrel was secure, Ernest quickly climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. Sarah watched as his headlights turned on and he drove west. Again. She waited until the van rounded a bend before restarting her car and following, keeping a larger distance. Then she tried calling Detective Roberts again, but the signal remained weak, just one bar. When he answered, his voice was broken. "Sarah, I hear you. Where?" "Ernest stopped in the woods," she said loudly, hoping for a clearer connection. "He burned something in a barrel. Now he's driving west on Cedar Ridge Road." "Do not follow. It's dangerous. Police are coming." "I can't hear you well," Sarah replied. "I'll call again when I get a better signal." Then she ended the call, frustrated but determined to track Ernest. Whatever he was doing was suspicious, so secretive, so soon after the bicycle's discovery that she couldn't help thinking it was tied to Marie's case. The road wound through forest for several more miles before Sarah saw Ernest's van slow down ahead. He turned onto a narrow side road that could have been easy to miss. Sarah continued past it, then pulled over once out of sight. Checking her GPS, she saw the side road led to a small residential area, Whispering Pines Lane, a cul-de-sac with only a handful of homes scattered far apart. This had to be where Ernest lived. Sarah waited a few minutes, then carefully drove. Back to the turn, headlights dimmed to stay hidden. The lane was narrow and heavily forested on both sides, offering good cover. After a quarter mile, the trees opened to a small clearing with several houses set back from the road. Sarah parked at the forest edge, where her car would be less visible, and used her phone's camera to zoom in. Ernest's van sat in front of a modest single-story home with faded blue siding. She saw Ernest unload the burn barrel from the van and carry it to the house's side, then disappear inside briefly. When he came back out, Sarah was surprised. He was pushing what looked like a cart or trolley, definitely red in color. A fire trolley, she realized, a heavy-duty cart used for moving items in industrial settings. Ernest parked it beside the van, its back doors already open, and lifted something heavy from the trolley into the van. Then he wheeled the empty trolley back inside, gone long enough that Sarah began to worry what needed that equipment. She checked her phone again. Still one bar. She tried calling Detective Roberts. "Detective, I'm on Whispering Pines Lane," she said, hoping he could hear. "Ernest lives here. He brought the burn barrel to his house and now he's got a red trolley. I think he's moving something heavy." This time, the detective's voice was clearer. "Sarah, listen carefully. This is very dangerous. I need you to leave immediately. Officers are on their way, but it will take them time. Do not go on to Ernest's property or approach him." "I'm staying in my car, hidden," Sarah promised. "I understand," Detective Roberts said, his tone softening, "but your safety comes first. Start driving back toward town now. We'll deal with Ernest." Sarah hesitated, torn between her desire to see what Ernest was doing and her sense of danger. "All right," she said finally. "I'm leaving." But as she turned to start her car, she saw Ernest emerge again with the trolley, struggling to lift something heavy into his van. Once he finished, he closed the van's rear doors, then walked to the driver's seat. Sarah snapped several photos with her phone, zooming in as much as possible. The images were grainy in the dim light, but might be vital evidence. Why? Would he move heavy items now? She wondered, especially right after the police found Marie's bicycle. She watched Ernest load the trolley a third time, struggling to transfer whatever was on it into the van. Once done, he loaded the empty trolley into the van before closing the doors. He then climbed in and started the engine. Sarah checked her signal again and called Detective Roberts, keeping her voice low. "Ernest is loading something from his house into his van using a fire trolley," she reported. "He's already made one trip and went inside for more." "Where exactly are you now?" Detective Roberts asked, voice tense. "Still on Whispering Pines Lane, parked at the forest's edge. I'm far enough that he can't see me, but he's about to leave." "Our officers are still several minutes away," Detective Roberts replied. "Can you see which way he'll go without being spotted?" "Yes. There's only one way out of this cul-de-sac. He'll have to pass by me." Sarah watched as Ernest slowly drove down the lane toward the main road. She ducked down to avoid being seen. "He's heading back to Cedar Ridge Road," she whispered. As soon as Ernest's van turned onto the main road, Sarah saw police cruisers with lights flashing but no sirens speeding toward the cul-de-sac. They must have driven quietly to avoid alerting him. The first cruiser slowed near the intersection, and Sarah saw Detective Roberts inside, talking urgently into his radio. The other cars continued, likely chasing Ernest's van. Sarah started her car and followed the police vehicles at a distance. As she rounded a bend, she saw a blockade across the road, stopping Ernest's van in its tracks. Officers had positioned vehicles strategically so Ernest had no way forward or back. Sarah parked her car a safe distance away and watched as officers approached the van with weapons drawn, ordering him to exit with hands visible. Ernest obeyed, stepping out slowly, his face a mask of resignation. Detective Roberts approached once Ernest was secured and handcuffed. Two officers stayed with Ernest while others moved to the back of the van. With gloved hands, they opened the rear doors. Sarah couldn't see inside from her spot, but she saw officers' reactions, shock followed by urgent activity. "Detective," Roberts spoke rapidly into his radio, and soon an ambulance arrived with lights flashing against the trees. Unable to stay put, Sarah got out of her car and walked toward the scene. A uniformed officer moved to stop her, but Detective Roberts saw her and waved her forward. "What did you find?" Sarah asked, approaching him. Detective Roberts's face was grim. "Be prepared, Sarah. This is hard." He led her to the back of the van, where officers carefully removed what looked like black body bags. There were 3, each holding a human form. "They're alive," Detective Roberts said quickly, seeing Sarah's horror. "All 3. They're heavily sedated but breathing." Sarah stared at the body bags, her mind struggling to process what she saw. "Is one of them Marie?" she whispered. Before Detective Roberts could reply, a medic unzipped the first bag, revealing a young woman with pale blonde hair. Though she looked grown, not the 8-year-old Sarah remembered, there was no mistaking her daughter's face. "Marie," Sarah breathed, her legs sinking beneath her. Detective Roberts caught her arm, steadying her. "We need to get them to the hospital right away," a paramedic called. "They're stable but drugged." Sarah watched as the medical team loaded the 3 body bags onto stretchers and into the ambulance. Marie and 2 other young women, Kayla Bennett and Juliana Ramirez, were unconscious but alive. Across the road, Ernest stood in handcuffs between 2 officers. When he saw Sarah, his face contorted in rage. "You should have accepted it," he yelled at her. "She's dead to me, and she'd be dead to you too if you hadn't interfered." Sarah stepped forward, anger surging. "How could you?" she demanded. "How could you take her from me?" "She was just a child," Ernest spat, eyes blazing with twisted hatred. "You should have lived with it." "That's enough," Detective Roberts interrupted, signaling officers to lead Ernest away. They walked him to a cruiser and put Him in the back seat. I recognize that line, Sarah said, voice shaking. It's the same message I got online. Your daughter's as dead as this pig. Just accept it and live with it. It was him. He sent that horrible message and video. We'll add that to the charges, Detective Roberts assured her. Right now, the priority is getting those girls medical attention. Would you like to ride in the ambulance with Marie? Sarah nodded, unable to speak through the tightness in her throat. After 12 years of searching, of hoping, her daughter was alive, changed, grown, traumatized beyond belief, but alive. As Sarah climbed into the ambulance beside Marie's stretcher, she gently took her daughter's hand. It was larger than she remembered, fingers longer, nails neatly trimmed but unpolished. This wasn't the hand of an 8-year-old who rode away on a pink bicycle, but that of a young woman who'd endured horrors no one should face. "I'm here, Marie," Sarah whispered, squeezing gently. "I never stopped looking for you. I never gave up." As the ambulance doors closed and the vehicle moved, Sarah held her daughter's hand, vowing never to let go. The ambulance raced through Oakwood Meadows' morning streets, siren cutting through the quiet dawn. Sarah sat beside Marie's stretcher, holding her hand and studying her face. Once a round-cheeked child, now a 20-year-old woman, Marie's features were peaceful as she slept, breathing steadily. The paramedic assured Sarah her vital signs were stable, though doctors would need hospital tests to know the full extent of her condition. "How long will she be out?" Sarah asked the paramedic monitoring Marie's vitals. "It's hard to say without knowing what she was given," the paramedic replied. "But judging by her responses, she should wake up within a few hours, once the drugs wear off." The ambulance pulled into Cedarbrook Memorial Hospital's emergency entrance, where medical staff awaited. The doors swung open, and Marie's stretcher was unloaded and rushed inside, Sarah following. "We'll take her to trauma room 2, a doctor in blue scrubs said. "The other 2 young women are in rooms 1 and 3. Sarah listened as the paramedic briefed hospital staff on Marie's condition, sharing vital signs and transport observations. The medical team worked efficiently, moving Marie onto a hospital bed and connecting her to monitors for heart rate, blood pressure, and oxygen. Sarah waited outside until a nurse approached and gently touched her arm. "Ms. Peterson, the police would like to speak with you." Sarah followed the nurse to a private waiting area where Detective Roberts waited. "How is she?" he asked as Sarah sank into a chair. "Stable," Sarah replied, voice distant. "Still unconscious. They're examining her now." Detective Roberts nodded. "We have officers outside each girl's room. They're safe now. Have you identified the other 2? "We believe so," Detective Roberts said. Ernest kept journals and had missing persons reports matching their ages and descriptions, confirming they are Kayla Bennett and Juliana Ramirez. Kayla vanished from Portland 11 years ago at age 9, and Juliana disappeared on a school field trip in Seattle 13 years ago, also at age 9. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, imagining the mothers who'd get life-changing calls soon, just like she did when Marie's bicycle was found hours ago. "What about Ernest? Has he said anything?" she asked, opening her eyes. "Not much. Beyond his outburst," Detective Roberts said. "He's asked for a lawyer, but we found plenty at his house. Journals, photos, records he kept on the girls. It seems he imagined himself as their caretaker, not their captor." "How did he hide them for so long? Didn't anyone visit his house?" "The house has a storm bunker underneath, converted into a soundproof living area. From what we know, he kept them there most of the time, especially when visitors came, which was rare. He sheltered them underground for years, hidden from the world." Sarah shuddered at imagining Marie and the other girls living beneath their abductor's house. "Also found his laptop," Detective Roberts continued. Our tech team confirmed he sent you that manipulated photo and video. He made a new account just for that. The video was, as some forum members guessed, edited with AI to make it look like it was filmed in Europe. Sarah realized exactly. He wanted to shift blame onto the property owner. We've contacted Swiss authorities. They interviewed Mr. Holloway. He admits ordering the renovation, but denies knowing anything else. We'll keep checking any ties he may have. A doctor entered the waiting room. Ms. Peterson, I'm Dr. Patel. I've done an initial exam on your daughter. Sarah stood. How is she? Is she awake? Not yet, but she's showing signs of waking from sedation. Her physical condition is surprisingly good, given the circumstances. She's undernourished, but not severely, and we found no signs of physical trauma beyond old healed fractures in her left arm and right ankle. What? About sexual abuse? Sarah asked, forcing herself. Dr. Patel's face remained neutral. We found no evidence of sexual assault. From what all three women said, Ernest Mallory maintained a fatherly relationship with them. It was controlling and psychologically abusive, but not sexual. Sarah felt overwhelming relief. Knowing Marie wasn't physically violated was a small mercy amid the horror. When can I see her? Sarah asked. You can go in now if you like. We moved her to a private room. When she wakes, having you there could help. Sarah turned to Detective Roberts. I need to be with her. Of course, he said. I'll check in later. We'll need statements from all three when they're ready, but that can wait until they're medically cleared. Sarah followed Dr. Patel down the hospital halls to a room with a uniformed officer at the door. Inside, Marie lay in a bed connected to monitoring equipment. Her eyes were closed, but her breathing was calmer, more natural. Sarah pulled a chair alongside and took Marie's hand again. I'm here, sweetheart, she murmured softly. You're safe now. For almost an hour, Sarah sat beside Marie, sometimes whispering, sometimes just watching her breathe. Around 8 a.m., Sarah noticed Marie's eyelids flutter. Marie! Sarah leaned closer. Can you hear me? Marie's eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first, then clearing as she took in her surroundings. When her gaze landed on Sarah, there was confusion, then recognition. Mom. Her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Yes, sweetheart, it's me. Marie's eyes widened as full awareness returned. Where am I? Where's Ernest? Fear crept into her voice. You're in the hospital, Sarah quickly assured. Ernest has been arrested. He can't hurt you anymore. You're safe. Marie stared at Sarah as if forcing herself to believe it. I thought I'd never see you again. Sarah's tears spilled. I never stopped looking for you, never stopped hoping. A nurse entered, seeing Marie was awake, and checked her vital signs before alerting the doctor. Dr. Patel returned shortly, joined by Detective Roberts. Hello, Marie, Dr. Patel said gently. I'm Dr. Patel. How do you feel? Dizzy, Marie replied. Tired, but okay. That's normal. The medication is still wearing off. We'll take very good care of you. Detective Roberts stepped forward. Marie, I don't want to overwhelm you, but when you're ready, we'd like to ask you some questions about what happened. Marie nodded slowly. The other girls, Kayla and Juliana, are they here? Are they all right? Yes, they're here, and they're safe, Detective Roberts assured. They're still unconscious, but doctors expect them to recover like you. Marie relaxed slightly at that. Good. I promised I'd keep them safe. Sarah squeezed her daughters. And you did, sweetheart. You all kept each other safe, and now you're home. Dr. Patel stepped in gently. Marie needs rest, but if you want to answer questions first, that could help the investigation. Marie nodded again. I want to help. I want him locked up forever. Can you tell us how Ernest took you? Detective Roberts asked. Notebook in hand, Marie's gaze grew distant as she recalled that day 12 years ago. I was riding my bike around our house. It was summer vacation and Mom was inside making lunch. She glanced at Sarah. Ernest drove by in his truck. He stopped and offered me a candy bar, then asked if I wanted to see his cat that had kittens. Sarah closed her eyes briefly, imagining her trusting daughter being lured away by such a simple trick. I said no at first, Marie continued, but he said the kittens were in a garage nearby and I could bring my bike. I really wanted to see the kittens. Her voice broke. There weren't any kittens. When we got to the empty house, I guess it was the Airbnb place before it was finished. He gave me a drink. It tasted odd, but I was thirsty from riding. Detective Roberts nodded, writing notes. And then he took you to his house? Yes, to a bunker underneath. That's where I met Kayla. Jules came later. He told us there was a war outside, that our parents were dead, and he was protecting us. Marie's voice hardened. But we figured out he was lying. We saw newspapers sometimes when he was careless. We knew there was no war. Sarah listened, horrified but grateful that Marie could recall details, proof her mind was intact despite trauma and years of captivity. Did he ever tell you why he took you? Detective Roberts asked. Marie paused. He said he was saving us from bad parents who didn't watch us closely, she said, looking at Sarah. That wasn't true. About you, Mom, I knew you loved me. We've been reading Ernest's journals, Detective Roberts told Sarah during a visit. They show his mindset. He believed he was rescuing girls from neglectful families. In Marie's case, he said he'd seen her playing outside unsupervised. Several times before taking her, I was in the kitchen, Sarah had said, guilt resurfacing. I could see the front yard from the window. I turned away for just a few minutes to check something. Sarah, none of this was your fault, Detective Roberts had said firmly. Predators like Ernest look for opportunities. Any sign of normal life to exploit you couldn't have known, he continued seriously. In Ernest's recent journal entries and on his laptop, we found he planned to move all 3 women to a new location. It looks like he had ties to an international trafficking ring on the dark web. As the girls neared adulthood, he meant to sell them. Sarah gasped, hand covering her mouth again. Marie's grip tightened on Sarah's other hand. He was worried about keeping them as they got older, Detective Roberts said. Harder to control, more likely to resist. He planned to drug them and transport them this week. If you hadn't spotted him at the Airbnb that night, Sarah, and followed him. Detective Roberts let the thought hang in the air. If you hadn't been unable to sleep, if you hadn't gone to work early, if you hadn't seen the light and checked, Marie and the others might have vanished again, maybe forever. Detective Roberts nodded grimly. I'm sorry, Marie, but you're safe now, and your statements are helping us shut down this operation. You're helping save others. Marie sat up straighter, her jaw set, reminding Sarah of the stubborn 8-year-old she remembered. Good. I want to help. I want to make sure no one else goes through this. Sarah felt pride at her daughter's strength and compassion, even after so much. One more thing, Detective Roberts said. We confirmed from Ernest's records and Holloway's statement that Ernest helped build that Airbnb before he officially became caretaker. He knew Mr. Holloway from a previous job and was there during construction. He had access before they poured the garage concrete, so he buried the bike himself. Exactly, Sarah said. Holloway had no idea about Ernest's crimes. He's cooperating fully with our investigation here and in Switzerland. Detective Roberts asked a few more gentle questions before Dr. Patel suggested Marie rest. The detective thanked Marie and said he'd check in later, then left. Left alone with her daughter, Sarah brushed Marie's hair gently. Get some sleep, sweetheart. I'll stay right here. I promise. Marie's eyes drifted closed, the drugs making it hard to stay awake. Don't leave, Marie murmured. Never again, Sarah whispered, settling into a chair next to the bed. "I'm staying." As Marie fell back asleep, Sarah watched. Her face, grateful for the miracle of having her daughter home. Whatever lay ahead, the psychological healing, adjusting to a world that moved on without her for 12 years, legal proceedings against Ernest, they'd face it together. After 12 years of darkness, light had returned to Sarah's life. In the end, it wasn't just finding a buried bicycle that brought Marie home. It was a mother's refusal to give up, a detective's commitment to a cold case, a daughter's will to survive, and countless small choices that led Sarah to drive past that Airbnb at exactly the right moment on that fateful morning. Some might call it chance. Sarah believed it was the universe finally correcting what went so terribly wrong 12 years before. Whatever it was, she was thankful for every moment, every challenge, every triumph of having her daughter back. After 12 years of darkness, they had found their way to the light together.